The story begins with a man named William Trainer, whose life looked absolutely perfect from the outside. He was very rich. He had a beautiful girlfriend. But then one morning, everything changed. While rushing to work in the rain without paying much attention, he got busy on a phone call and carelessly tried to stop a taxi on the road. Suddenly, a loud horn flashed in his ears, and right after that, the harsh sound of tires screeching echoed around him. After this, we are introduced to a girl named Louisa Clark, a very cheerful and lively girl who always had a smile on her face. She worked as a waitress in a cafe. Wearing her bright, colorful clothes, she happily served coffee, tea, cakes, and snacks to customers. Louisa did not expect much from life. She was satisfied with how things were going. But one day, the cafe shut down, and her boss apologized while telling her that she no longer had a job there. Then we see Louisa at her home, which was a very middle-class household. Everyone in the family worked, yet they could barely manage their expenses. That night, the family argued over the situation, but Louisa's mother believed that she would soon find another job. The next morning, Louisa met her boyfriend, Patrick, at the local athletics track. He tried encouraging her and said, "Don't stop trying. There are plenty of jobs in the world. Don't be scared. You'll definitely find one. Just keep looking continuously." Now Louisa had nothing left to lose, so she went to an employment office. But there, she found out that she had already tried many different jobs recently, yet none of them suited her. Only one job remained that might work for her. The officer explained that it was a caretaker job. She would have to look after a man who had become disabled. No special experience was required, and it seemed like a perfect job for Louisa. So, without thinking much, she agreed immediately. The next day, Louisa went for the interview. The place looked like an old royal mansion, making it obvious that the people living there were extremely wealthy. Seeing all that luxury made Louisa's middle-class mind feel nervous. The interview itself started awkwardly. During the interview, her skirt even got caught a little. Louisa often did such silly things. Camilla Trainer, the woman taking her interview, had a very royal and elegant personality. Compared to her, Louisa's clumsy behavior looked strange. But Louisa, helpless because of her habit, kept talking non-stop. Slowly, through her words, Camilla noticed her innocence and simplicity. Louisa thought she would never get the job, but then Camilla suddenly asked if she could start immediately. Hearing this made Louisa extremely happy. Afterward, Camilla showed her the whole house. She explained that the job was actually for her son, who had become handicapped after an accident 2 years earlier. While explaining the small details of the work, Camilla clearly said that Louisa's role was not just that of a paid caretaker. More than that, she needed to become a friend who could spend time with Will and talk to him. Though this sounded a little strange to Louisa, she was still happy that at least she had found a job. Then, when Louisa met Will for the first time, she did not understand what to make of him. Sitting in a wheelchair with messy hair and a grown beard, Will immediately started making strange noises with his mouth, almost as if he wanted Louisa to feel uncomfortable on purpose. Even when he spoke, his words were filled with sarcasm and bitterness. Spending all day sitting in one chair had made his heart bitter. After hearing his rude taunts, Louisa no longer felt this job was that good. Anyway, when Louisa returned home, she found everything in complete chaos. Things were scattered everywhere. The kitchen was a mess, and everyone looked stressed. But the moment she announced that she had gotten the job, the whole family became overjoyed. The next day at work, Will's physical therapist, Nathan, explained to Louisa that she would not need to lift Will or do any physical tasks like that. Louisa asked, "Then what exactly am I supposed to do?" But even Nathan did not have a proper answer. He simply said, "Maybe your job is just to keep Will happy." However, Louisa's first real conversations with Will went terribly. She tried convincing him to go outside with her, but he answered every sentence with sarcasm. He was extremely rude. Then he directly told her, "You talk too much. When you're around me, try speaking less." This made Louisa feel even worse. She tried hard not to show that his words hurt her, but it was clearly visible on her face. After that, we see her sitting alone in the garden during lunch, especially away from Will. Despite such a bad beginning, Louisa decided not to quit the job. Every day, she came wearing her colorful clothes and tried her best to make Will feel a little comfortable and happy. Meanwhile, Will became more confused every day after seeing her. He wondered whether this girl simply never felt insulted or whether she had no self-respect at all. Meanwhile, Louisa talked about Will with her sister Trina. Slowly, the conversation shifted toward Trina herself, where she revealed that she was thinking about starting her studies again. Hearing this worried Louisa, because it meant she would have to stay home and take care of their parents parents alone. Trina also felt bad for her, but she had no other choice. It was important for her future, and Louisa understood that. The next morning, when Louisa arrived at Will's house, she discovered that some of Will's old friends had come to meet him. Something felt strange, and from Camilla's expressions, it seemed like she did not even want them meeting Will. The visitors were Will's best friend Rupert and his ex-girlfriend Alicia. Their conversation clearly showed that things between them had changed badly. Louisa stood quietly to the side, watching everything, and the pain on Will's face was obvious. But things became even worse when Rupert revealed that he and Alicia were not only dating, but were now engaged as well. They had wanted to tell Will the news together. Hearing this completely broke Will from inside, but as always, he hid his emotions behind cold and sharp words. While leaving, Alicia admitted in front of Louisa that after the accident, she had wanted to stay with Will, but no one could help a person who did not even want to be helped. Louisa said nothing, but from her face, it was clear that she did not agree with her. After they left, Louisa suddenly heard a loud noise from another room. She rushed there and saw Will's framed photographs shattered on the floor. It looked as if he himself had thrown them down. Later, when Louisa was with her boyfriend Patrick, she still kept talking about Will. She said, "I can't believe life already treated poor Will so badly, and now his best friend and his ex are getting married to each other. Seeing all this must make him feel his disability even more." She genuinely felt very bad for him, but Patrick did not really care. His mind was somewhere else. In fact, he had convinced Louisa to go to Norway with him because there was going to be a race there in which he wanted to participate with his friends. Louisa had no idea about this before, and when she heard it, she became so nervous that she could barely say anything. But Patrick was not the type to back away, so Louisa pretended to be excited and said, "Wow, I'm really happy." The next day at work, Will saw Louisa fixing the photographs he had broken the previous day. He immediately said, "I don't want these photos fixed. I don't want to see myself like that anymore." He hated anything that reminded him of his old life because it made him feel even more disabled. Then he angrily shouted at Louisa, "Who asked you to fix these, crazy girl?" But this time, Louisa did not stay silent. She answered back and said, "First of all, stop behaving like this because I haven't done anything to you." In anger, she even blurted out, "I'm not sitting here talking to you because I enjoy it. I'm only doing this job for money. I really need it." And strangely, those words touched Will. That same afternoon, Will suddenly asked Louisa if she wanted to watch a movie with him. Louisa was not really fond of movies with subtitles, but she still agreed. After a while, she surprisingly started enjoying the movie a lot. For the first time, the two of them had a proper conversation. Then, something even more surprising happened. Will asked, "Should we go outside for a while?" And from there, their conversations slowly grew, and both of them started feeling comfortable around each other. Even Camilla became very happy after seeing this change. Anyway, during a hospital visit, Nathan clearly explained to Louisa how difficult Will's life really was. He told her there was absolutely no chance of recovery, and the worst part was that because of his condition, he could easily become a victim of serious illnesses. On top of that, he lived with constant pain. He was never truly normal or comfortable. Now Louisa finally understood that his life was not as easy as Will tried to make it seem. That night, when Louisa went to watch a movie with Patrick, she suggested a foreign film, but Patrick completely ignored her choice and bought tickets for a comedy instead. A few days later, snow was falling outside, while inside, Will suddenly became very sick. He had a high fever, and his father asked Louisa to keep an eye on him. Louisa did exactly that, but as time passed, his condition kept getting worse. She tried calling for help, but half asleep, Will told her not to worry and that everything would be fine. However, hours passed and he only became weaker. Finally, Nathan arrived, and the moment he saw Will's condition, he panicked badly. He immediately started doing everything possible to save him. During this chaos, Louisa noticed cut marks on Will's wrist and realized that he hid his real emotions from everyone. He lied when he said everything was fine. All those meaningless, sarcastic comments he made in front of people were just an act. Deep inside, he was suffering badly. That night, even though she did not need to, Louisa stayed beside Will. She sat near him and watched an old birthday video his friends had made for him. In that video, Will looked like a completely different person. He was lively, energetic, happy, and full of life. When Will finally opened his eyes, he saw Louisa still sitting in his room. They talked more, and their friendship grew stronger. Slowly, even Will's behavior started improving. But everything suddenly turned upside down when Louisa overheard Will's parents arguing. That was when she discovered that Will had already made an arrangement to go to Switzerland after 6 months for an assisted death. As a mother, Camilla could not accept this at all. She did not want it to happen, but Will's father believed it was Will's decision, and nobody had the right to interfere. Hearing all this completely disturbed Louisa, and she even thought about quitting the job. But her sister explained to her that the story should not end like this. Louisa still had 6 months left in which she could show Will that life was still worth living, even if he could no longer use his arms and legs. After this, Louisa shared her plan with Will's parents, and they promised that if she managed to take Will out into the world again, they would support her in every possible way. Now Louisa knew Will would never agree to go anywhere on his own, so she lied and said that Nathan had never seen a horse race before and wanted to go there. When they arrived, Louisa was extremely excited, but suddenly, Will's wheelchair got stuck in the mud, making him feel deeply embarrassed. Thankfully, a few people came and helped them. Despite this small problem, things still seemed fine, and Will even started enjoying himself a little. But later, they went to a restaurant where they were refused service. This made Louisa create a huge scene there. Will felt embarrassed because of it, and his entire mood got ruined. Still refusing to give up, Louisa later told Will that she had tickets for a Mozart concert because she herself had never attended such a concert before. At first, Will refused, but after some hesitation, he agreed. That night, Louisa dressed up beautifully, and she looked absolutely stunning. Will also wore a suit. Together, they looked perfect. The evening went wonderfully, and more than the performance itself, Will enjoyed being with Louisa. He loved the night so much that, while returning home, he suggested, "Let's sit in the car a little longer and listen to music." Louisa instantly agreed. A few days later, on her birthday, Louisa invited Will to her house for dinner. Everything was going perfectly until Patrick arrived, and his jealousy toward Will became obvious. Will noticed this too, and deliberately started teasing him even more. He flirted with Louisa just to irritate Patrick further. Then, in frustration, Patrick gifted Louisa a very strange-looking necklace. Louisa pretended dramatically that she loved it and said, "Wow, it's so beautiful." But Will had gifted her a special pair of tights, and Louisa genuinely loved them so much that she started dancing happily. The next day, Will took Louisa on a tour of a nearby castle. There, he told her about his favorite place in the world, Paris, especially a small cafe he used to visit many times. Louisa excitedly said, "Then let's go there." But Will explained that he wanted to visit Paris the same way he used to before, not in this useless body. After returning home, Louisa's father celebrated getting a new job. It turned out that Will's father had hired him for maintenance work at the mansion. Louisa was happy, but she also worried that maybe her father had only gotten the job because of her. Will comforted her and explained that it simply meant she no longer needed to worry about everyone else all the time. Now she could finally think a little about herself too. Then came Rupert and Alicia's wedding day, where Will and Louisa attended together. The beginning felt awkward, but slowly things became normal. Louisa had a few drinks and encouraged Will to mingle with people. Later, one of Will's friends, Mary, criticized Alicia and said that she had abandoned Will when he needed her most. She also said that Will was a special person, and Louisa should feel lucky to have him in her life. Deep down, Louisa agreed with her. To show this, she took Will onto the dance floor. People kept staring at them, but neither of them cared. The night ended with Will speeding down the road in his wheelchair while Louisa sat laughing in his lap. Both of them were genuinely happy together. The next day, Will's mother became worried because he had stayed out all night, and Nathan also disliked the fact that Will had been drinking alcohol. But both of them noticed something important. Will looked happier than before. After this, we see Patrick and Louisa training together. While running, they were discussing their holiday plans when Louisa suddenly remembered, "That's when I have to stay with Will. You'll have to go alone." Hearing this, Patrick exploded in anger. He felt that Louisa spent more time with Will than with him. Louisa tried explaining that it was important, but Patrick angrily walked away. Meanwhile, despite everything, Louisa found out that Will still had not changed his decision. He had not canceled his Switzerland plan, but she thought that maybe if she gave him one last perfect chance, his mind might change. So she planned a huge holiday trip, determined to save his life no matter what. The night before leaving, Patrick tried to surprise Louisa, but when he learned that she was going on vacation with Will instead of him, he became even angrier. He felt like Louisa was betraying him. Without even listening to her explanation, Patrick stormed away. Anyway, the holiday turned out absolutely perfect. The weather was beautiful, and both of them spent their days enjoying the pool and beach. Then, one stormy night, Louisa helped Will lie down on the bed, but suddenly, it felt as if time itself had stopped. She lay down beside him, and forgetting everything else, they moved closer to each other and kissed. That moment was beautiful and perfect in every possible way. The next day also felt just as wonderful, and Louisa had never felt happier. But that night, when she finally confessed her feelings to Will, everything went wrong. Will said, "I love you too," but he also made it clear that he was not going to change his decision. He still wanted to go to Switzerland. Louisa's heart shattered. She angrily called him selfish, but Will explained that he could not live this kind of life anymore. This was not truly living for him. He also did not want Louisa to eventually hate him for all the things he would never be able to give her because of his condition. Louisa was in no state to listen. She cried badly and left after getting her heart broken. The strange thing was that Will himself was just as broken inside. When they returned home, everything had changed. Will's parents had started believing there might still be hope, but the sadness on Louisa's face immediately made them realize their worst fear had come true. Louisa told them that no matter how hard she tried, she could not change his decision. Hearing this made Camilla burst into tears. That night, Louisa finally told her family the truth. Her mother became furious after hearing it, but her father remained calm. He explained, "You cannot change a person. All you can do is love them for who they are and hope that your love is enough." Only then did Louisa realize the mistake she had made. She should have been beside Will during his final moments instead of staying away from him, so she immediately left for Switzerland, where Will was about to spend his final days. There, on the last day of his life, Louisa supported him in the only way she knew how. She lay beside him on the bed, and both of them quietly held each other in silence. For them, it was an incredibly beautiful moment. A few days later, we see Louisa in Paris. She was sitting in the same little cafe Will had once described as his favorite place in the world. Then we hear that Will had left one final goodbye letter for Louisa. In that letter, he sincerely thanked her from the bottom of his heart and told her to move forward in life. He also revealed that he had left a large inheritance for her. Now she finally had enough to live her own life freely, without carrying everyone else's responsibilities. In the end, Louisa walks through the streets of Paris, where a beautiful new life is waiting for her ahead.